Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to another episode of If My Name Be Lifted Up, my journey following the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I am your host, Reginald Muhammad, your God brother. I would like to begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All praise belongs to Allah who came to us in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. I bear witness there is no God but He, and I bear witness the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is his living and exalted Christ. I further bear witness the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is their divine reminder, comforter, warner, the Messiah among us. And I would like to greet you all in their names. In the greeting words of peace, we say it in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum. I just want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for coming on. This is going to be a spectacular event.
Almighty God Allah has to introduce or reintroduce himself to us so that we can once again place our trust in a proper place. So the second chapter of the Holy Quran starts with these words in the Maulana Muhammad Ali translation. The second surah or chapter says, I, Allah, am the best knower. Look at how he introduces himself. He's the best knower, meaning his knowledge and what he knows is supreme. He is the creator of all that we see, so he is knowledgeable of what he has created, what he has made. He has a comprehensive knowledge of all things. So in the opening of the book, he wants to remove doubt from the very outset so that we can believe, because it's from the best knower. You know, brothers and sisters, all of us have some knowledge about something. You and I may know how to drive a car. That's knowledge. But that doesn't mean you and I know how to build a car. That's right. Nor does it mean that when it starts to rattle, rattle, thunder, clatter, boom, 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 nor does it mean we know what to do if we pop that hood open. Knowledge that we have tends to be limited. But Allah, the best knower, he has a comprehensive knowledge of all things. This, his creation, the human being, the glory of God, the greatest of all that he has created. He knows best how this life should be lived. So it is on he who created us, who knows us best, who knows our function and purpose. It is on him whom we should rely and put our trust. But in this world, we don't know the will of God. We don't recognize easily the way of God, for an arch deceiver is present. So God has to intervene. And the next line tells us how he intervenes. He gives us guidance. So the second chapter continues with these words from the best knower. This book, there is no doubt in it, is a guide to those who keep their duty, who believe in the unseen and keep up prayer and spend out of what we have given them, and who believe in that which has been revealed to thee and that which was revealed before thee, and of the hereafter they are sure. See, to be sure means you trust. You're secure. You know there isn't doubt present when you and I are sure.
I am honored and privileged, and many of you know him, and many of you want to hear his journey, and many of you love him, and it is none other than our brother, our student minister out of Chicago, our friend, Brother Abel Muhammad. Welcome to our show, my brother.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for having me, Brother Reginald. It's an honor to be here with you and those who are watching.
Wa alaikum salam, and thank you, my brother. Brother Abel, I know that you are very busy in this work. I don't take your time for granted. So I want to get right into it, brother. I really want to know, because I know I've seen pictures of you as a very young man in this. I I want to know, where did that begin? Where did this journey begin for you?
Yes, sir. You know, brother Reginald, it started for me when I was in high school as a junior. It was in my sophomore or junior year of high school. And there was a registered brother who was a senior 1 year ahead of me in high school. And he had to be, I think, 17 or 18 years old. And he would come to school sometimes in a suit and bow tie, but always dressed very different from us. Always very, you know, wearing corduroy and what do you call it, cardigan sweater with a turtleneck, or very, very clean, while most of us were just kind of wearing sweats and jeans, you know, that mostly jeans. That's what we wore in high school.
Yes.
And he was so different. I didn't know him because I didn't have any classes. Like I said, he was a year ahead of me in high school, but we had study hall together.
Okay.
And when we were sitting at study hall one day, he put a stack of newspapers on the table. And I looked over at it, and this is about 1991 or so, right around that time frame, 92 maybe. I looked over, and it said at the top of the paper, the final call, but I didn't notice that part, what it was called. It did say, treatment for AIDS found in Africa. And back then, I mean, just like we're dealing with COVID right now, AIDS was a huge issue globally, killing our people. And when I saw that, I remember the first thought I had in my mind was, that can't be true, or I would have heard about it on the news. This is what I thought. I didn't say that to him. This is what I thought. And so then I said, what is that? He said, oh, it's just a newspaper, you know, with information and stuff. And I said, can I see it? He was, well, it's $1. And I was like, well, I'll give you $1 for it. I was intrigued. I gave him $1. I started reading it, and I was not a reader. I didn't like reading. It was not something I did as a pastime. I had, I think, read one book at that point in my life completely, you know, and that was in 5th or 6th grade. But I read it. I read that paper in particular. I went right to the article on AIDS, and I'm flipping through it, and there was an article in there. I didn't know who he was at the time, from Minister Farrakhan, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in there. I didn't know who these men were, but I was intrigued with this news, and that there could be treatment for something that was harming so many people. How could it not have been on the news that I was watching every day?
Yes.
Initial spot from this one brother. So he came another day, a couple of weeks later. This is probably in around September, October, where we had that event with the newspaper.
Yeah.
And in around November, end of November, beginning of December, he comes again, and he's got this book. And it says on the cover, I don't know if I have one here. I don't have it right in front of me. From God in Person.
Yes.
How to Eat to Live.
Yes.
And there's a little picture that looked like an Asian man on it from me. I said, what is that? But I was focused not even on the title of the book, where it said From God in Person, and this little Asian looking man in my mind, who I later found out was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Yes. I said, again, a book, something I didn't like or wasn't drawn to. I said, what is that? He said, oh, it's a book that we have on our dietary law. I didn't know what he meant on our dietary law.
Right.
He gave me a lot of information, and I said, oh, can I see it? He's like, well, okay, you can check it out, but you got to give it back. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm not trying to keep no book out. I just want to look at it real quick. You know, I'm not trying to keep it even, to read it. In that study, I started flipping through the page. I said, hey, can I bring it back to you? I want to check it out. I don't know why I was so intrigued by it. I took it home and read it in 1 or 2 nights. It was over the weekend. I brought it back. My mind was sparked. For whatever reason, all the things that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was saying in there was just so logical and made so much sense. And I started trying it out. He said, you know, first we shouldn't, he said, it just made logical sense. Your body takes 24 hours to digest. If you eat more than one meal in a 24-hour cycle, your body doesn't have time to get rid of the waste, and you're doing your body harm. That just made logical sense to me. I didn't need any graphs or nothing special, just the pure, simple logic that made sense to me. So I started experimenting and doing what he said to do. In a couple of weeks, I was down to 2 meals. By the end of about 4 to 6 weeks, I was down to 1 meal a day. All of a sudden, I was able to get up in the morning for school. All of a sudden, I was able, my grades went up. My mind was, I wasn't forgetting my assignments. I wasn't forgetting or distracted in the classroom. I was able to focus. My grades instantly went up. I brought the book back to him and I said, what else do you got? You know, I was interested. But he wasn't trying to feed me. He thought about it a little bit and he said, well, probably the Message to the Black Man, this other book. He goes, but you gotta, it's $10 because I know you're not going to give it back. So you had to pay for it. It was right around my birthday. And my parents asked me what I wanted for my birthday. We didn't do big parties or anything anyway. And it wasn't like we had a lot of money. We poor family. My parents worked in a factory. Two of my siblings were going to college and just things were tight. And so I said, well, I just want $10 so I could buy this book. Well, they're right there. My parents were like, you sure that's all you want? Yeah. They gave me the $10. I took it to brother. He brought me a brand new Message to the Black Man. I went home that weekend of my birthday and I read the whole book from cover to cover. Everything that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it answered all the questions I'd ever had as a young boy growing up who loved God, who tried to read the Bible. That's the only book I did try to read, and it just made no sense to me, so I put it away. Yes. As I read it, Message to the Black Man in America, he answered, who is God? He was explaining to me all the symbolism in the Bible. And even though he was using the language of black man, it didn't bother me. It just resonated with me. And I read that book and I was really on my path. That brother never invited me out, but he did give me a great blessing in that I wasn't aware. I still didn't know who the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was. I didn't know who Minister Farrakhan was. But this brother who was part of the youth in the Nation of Islam, I saw him a couple of weeks later on a video with Chuck D. And at that time, like Public Enemy was the group of rap.
Yes.
And he's in this video with Chuck D. And I remember I had to look at it twice. I said, wait a second, is that the brother from school that I sit with? I watched the video again. Now that's him. It's definitely him. They are inside the Mosque Mariam in the video. And I didn't know what it was or, I just liked Chuck D. Yeah. So I remember I went to school the next day. I said, hey, I said, brother, that's you in that video, right? With Chuck D and Public Enemy. He's like, oh, yes, sir. I was like, how come you didn't tell me or us? Because there was a group of us that sat together. He's like, it's not important. That's not why we do that. Because I was thinking to myself, if I was just 1 second in a video with the biggest rap group, I would have been at school telling everybody.
Exactly.
You couldn't tell it was me. And so I was intrigued, like, what kind of brother is this?
Yes.
And he ended up introducing me. I didn't know at the time, but the granddaughter of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan went to my high school. And so he introduced me to her, and she was good friends with my girlfriend, the girl I was dating at that time. And they just kept telling me, you just need to go to the mosque. And we would sit at lunch and, just be teenagers. But my mind was on something else. I had found something.
Yes.
But I was troubled because for me, it didn't say Mexican in there. And me having grown up from parents from Mexico, I wasn't sure if it was for me.
Yes.
And when people had found out at the school that I started studying, I didn't even know I was studying it, to be honest with you. I was just intrigued and I was reading this stuff and it resonated with me and it was forming my perception of the world. I didn't consider myself a Muslim necessarily, but I loved what it was saying to me.
Yes.
And two things happened that were interesting after that. One, all of a sudden there was a Muslim student association in our group, at our school. And they were mostly, Sunni brothers, who were involved there, not necessarily members of the Nation of Islam or other groups. One of them was a brother from Pakistan, if I remember correctly. And the other brother was his parents were in the Nation of Islam in the first rise. And so he was sort of like a second or third generation Muslim, but not a member or follower of the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
they invited me to prayer, and I went and did prayer with them one Friday afternoon. It was beautiful. We would pray in school in the afternoon and have this Muslim Student Association meeting, and I thought it was beautiful, but I was bothered because they never invited me until they found out that I was leaning toward becoming a follower or a student. I never said I was converting or anything. I just started studying this, and you know how things are in high school. Everybody's like, oh man, there's this Mexican dude studying Islam, and not just any old Islam. But that in and of itself was unique, but the Nation of Islam. Yes. And, you know, I was bothered that I felt like they weren't interested in trying to teach me nothing. Now they wanted to show me how to pray and what Islam was. And in my mind, I was like, well, I'm already clear on what Islam is because I read what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said about it.
Right.
And I kind of felt a little bit of, I don't know what the right word would be. I felt some kind of way though.
Yes.
Like now you want to come teach me, but I already got to teach you. Yeah. You could have taught me when I was getting drunk every day. You could have taught me when I was smoking cigarettes. You could have taught me when I was flunking out of school. Now that that's been corrected by somebody, now you want to teach me? I already got a teacher, obviously, because something happened already. So that was my first thing. And the second thing that happened was there started to be murmurings because it was probably 70 to 80% Black students in the high school. Oh. And about 15 to 20% Latino, and then the rest white and Asian and everyone else. But it was predominantly Black school. And there were murmurings, you know, some people saying, that even though they weren't followers, but people have to realize at that time, Islam was big. Malcolm X, the movie, was being big. When Chuck D is wearing an FOI uniform to the Grammy Awards, it's big.
Yes.
Big. This is the time leading towards the Million Man March, you know? Yes. And some of the people started coming to me with, hey, you know, so-and-so said that if you start going to the mosque, they ain't going to listen to it. They're not going to pay attention to it. I remember thinking, well, hell, they're not even Muslims now. What difference does it make? But I also remember thinking, well, I don't want to be a point of division. Even though it wasn't like I was some deep thinker or anything, but these were just from waking up thoughts that I had. So it's even though the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's granddaughter invited me and others had invited me, I just felt uneasy, you know, about going. And it took me about 2 to 3 years. It wasn't until after I left college. And I finally went to the mosque for myself. And the first time I went was on a Wednesday night in February, the first week of February. And it was snowing outside. It was in the middle of a snowstorm. But I had decided I was going to go. I got on the bus from the southwest side of the city, rode the bus for an hour all the way across the city from almost by Midway Airport all the way, which, you know, that's as far west as you can go in this city.
Absolutely.
All the way across on the bus, took 63rd Street bus all the way down to Stony Island, the end of the line.
Wow.
Moving to the Stony Island bus. No Stony Island bus came. A bus for Jeffrey came on. I said, well, I'm going to jump on this one because it's snowing. I got on that bus. It took me down Jeffrey. I was never on the east side, so I wasn't familiar with it. It took me all the way down to Jeffrey.
Yes.
I realized I'm on about 75th Street now. I'm like, oh man, let me get off of here. I don't know what happened here. I get off. The bus driver told me, you wait right there on 75th, and another bus will come. It'll take you right to Stony, and you can get off there. I was like, okay. I figure I'll find my way from there. I still wasn't sure though where to go. I get on the bus. Waiting at the bus stop with me is a FOI with his pregnant wife.
Wow.
So I said, well, this must be the right way that I'm going. And so I just followed them, to be honest with you.
Yes.
And in the snow, I just kept my safe distance behind them because I didn't know them, but I figured these are some Muslims. I know that I'm looking for people with bow ties on at this point. Yes. And I followed him all the way there. And I remember at one point as we were walking on the parking lot, the brother turned around because, of course, you know, we're FOI. And he notices I'm going on there, too. He goes, can I help you? I was like, oh, I heard there's a meeting tonight. I was coming for the meeting. And he looked surprised. And, you know, it's our brother. I'll never forget him because it is brother who's now Shihan, Brother Lemuel.
Yes.
I mean, yes. Wonderful. That was the brother. They showed me how to get into the meeting was at Muhammad University of Islam. I didn't know who was speaking or what it was. I'd never been. So I walked in there place is packed on a Wednesday night. Somebody opened in prayer, and then Student Minister Abel Muhammad came up, and he introduced his brother for that night, who would be the keynote address, which is Student Minister Rasul Muhammad.
Wow.
And I didn't know at that time that both of them had been raised in Mexico.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that they were sons of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Wow.
But he spoke, the subject was the mission of becoming a Muslim. And at that time, Student Minister Rasul was the minister of Muhammad Mosque number 1 in Detroit. And it just come down as a sort of pre-Savior's Day, just a couple of weeks before Savior's. I didn't even know what Savior's Day was at that time. But he quoted something from Emiliano Zapata, and he talked about experiences with immigrant Muslims and taxi drivers. And it moved me so much that at the end of that meeting, I already knew I believed, but I didn't know what it was going to happen. They asked who believed that what they heard is the truth and good for our people, and who would want to accept and become a member. And I raised my hand.
Wow.
And got to shake his hand, and Student Minister Ishmael. Both were shaking hands that night. That I knew who they were still when I left there, but I was invited, of course, back out to the Monday study group, a Monday night processing class.
Yes.
Coming there, and the rest is history, as they say. That was my beginning. I didn't know that Allah had already said things that would help me from the very inception in my process.
Brother Abel, I'm so grateful because, you've shared some of those points with me before, but never to such detail.
Yes, sir.
So things that stand out to me in what I'm hearing is that you're 16 years old. Am I correct?
16 or 7. Or by this time, this was in 1994. Like I said, this was after when I first came to the mosque. But yeah, when I first heard it and started reading it, I was 16 or 17. Yes, sir.
Yeah, when you first, that's what I mean.
You're right.
When you first inspired by the brother in high school who is in the Nation of Islam. And the things that stand out is the first time you saw the final call, you read it.
That's right.
The first time you saw Message to the Black, how to live, you read. And this is from someone, as you said, I didn't even read. That wasn't something I did. But the first time you saw that newspaper, that book, you read it. And then I'm sure the first time you purchased a book.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that to me, now you bring me forward years later, the first time you come out, you are of Mexican descent.
That's right.
And the speaker was raised in Mexico.
That's right. Both of them that opened up. Yeah, right. That's right.
I mean, it's like, of course, there's no such thing as coincidence.
That's right.
So I love it because along your journey, it's obvious to any believer that Allah is absolutely interested in you.
I never thought about it until I said it out loud right now, how it lined up.
The ones that were there were perfect.
That's right.
Because obviously you experienced something coming from a different background than most.
That's right. That's right.
So you stood up, you accepted, and from that point, you haven't looked back.
That's right. It did take me time though, because I didn't see anyone else like me there. So that was 1994, my first visit, but I didn't register till January of 98. So almost 4 whole years, because I wasn't ready, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I recognized the responsibility, and I didn't want to play. I didn't think this was something to play with. I had never joined anything in my life. So the fact that I was thinking about it, I knew I believed.
Yeah.
But I met people who were processing when I started, and when I got registered, they were still processing. We called them lifelong processors. We used to have people who hung around like that, because the wisdom is beautiful. The knowledge you learn is beautiful, but it's something even more beautiful when you accept to take on the struggle
Yes.
To not just be on the sideline watching and cheering, but to be a member, to be on the field, to get in the game, if you will.
Come on.
That's what was the driving force that I had decided I never wanted to play when I came in. So it took me a while. I was going to register in September of 94. And I used to keep my student enrollment in actual facts with me in my pocket or in my book bag everywhere I went. And for some reason, when I went that Monday night to recite, I couldn't find it. And you need to present the document when you're going to recite with the letter from the mosque. I couldn't find it.
Wow.
So I didn't. And it kind of, I know I wasn't ready, first of all, in September of 94. But I thought I was going to take the jump anyway. And I found the document a year later after I'd already gotten mailed a second copy. But I found it in a book, which I always keep it in my book bag. But for some reason that night I couldn't find it. And eventually I got registered in January of 98. And it took a process. I was sitting studying in the Salam restaurant one Monday night.
Yes.
And this was in around December, end of December, beginning of January, and end of 97, beginning of 98.
Yeah.
As I was sitting there reading in the Salam restaurant, Student Minister Abel Muhammad came in. And I didn't realize that he was kind of standing over my shoulder. There was nobody else in there. It was just me in there at that moment. And he said, I noticed him. Of course, I jumped up. I said, "Assalamu alaikum, sir." And so, "Walaikum salam." He goes, "How do you mean? I see you're studying. I just wanted to give you the greetings." He said, "I see you're studying your student enrollment in actual facts." I'm like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Well, please, I just wanted to give you the greetings and pray everything is fine with you and your family." And he left. But at that moment, I sat down and I remember saying, "Okay, I know this has got to be for me. I'm not, all the questions aren't answered. I'm always going to have questions, but I know this is what I got to do." And within a week or two from there, I recited and became a member of the Nation of Islam.
Praise be to Allah, brother. Man, and so much in this to unpack. And I just want to, I want to go to this point because it was 94, September of 94, when you said that, man, you would have recited that night had you found your documents.
Right.
But you found those documents a year later, which would be September of 95. Right. Which is a month or so before the Million Man March.
That's right. That's right.
And I think I am familiar that I saw a picture of you at the march. Did you?
Yeah. Oh, yes, sir. I went there. By Allah's grace. Actually, prior to that, I had spent 3 months in Cuba. I left in, I think it was June, end of June, beginning of July of 95. I traveled throughout the United States, the East Coast, parts of Canada for about a month, and then lived for Canada. And from Canada, we took supplies of school and medical aid because of the U.S. embargo. It was with a group of people called Pastors for Peace who were challenging the blockade for humanitarian aid. So we took medical and school supplies, including a solar kit of a whole thing to light a school building and a school bus. I think it was 2 school buses to Cuba. And the big thing we did is it was all to bring light to the injustice of the blockade that they have against Cuba's trade.
Yes.
And we purposely make a showing at the border crossing into Canada, but they let us right through. I mean, they usually stop us and harass us. They stopped us for a moment. We circled the supplies, took a few seconds, and then they just let us through. We loaded a freighter full of the supplies and the buses to Cuba. And then we got on an airplane and flew to Cuba and met the supplies there and were hosted there by members of government in Cuba, as well as members of the community. And I was able to live there. I think it was 2 to 3 months. I loved it there. I wanted to stay in Cuba. It was the most beautiful place, not just physically, the spirit of the people.
Yes.
With so little, they do so much. I was watching them. You've gone into hospitals and you've seen these machines. They have like compressors on them for people to breathe and different valves. They would not allow those products to be shipped to Cuba. So they had to figure out a way to make them themselves.
Wow.
without being able to bring in supplies. So they're making medical parts out of old tires.
Yes.
I mean, they're just an amazing group of human beings there. I wanted to stay, and the only reason I came back was because I knew the Million Man March was coming. So I came back to the United States in early September, late August or mid-August to late August. And so by September, I was back in the United States because I wanted to go to the Million Man March, and I was blessed to go there with a group of brothers from a halfway house from a church on the southeast side of Chicago, with a good friend of mine who passed away about a year or two ago now, Oscar Montenegro. We were best buddies. We would study everything together. He went to my first Savior's Day with me. Beautiful brother who passed a couple of years ago due to some injuries he'd had and some health conditions, but beautiful human being. Me and him went with a group of everybody else was black besides me and this Mexican brother, Oscar. And we had a wonderful time at the Million Man March. And to show you how Allah connects everything for you, while we were walking, we walked from one end of the law from the Lincoln Memorial, as close as we could get to the stage, which was not very close at all because it was so packed. But we walked the whole way, and then we walked back again, and we would just stop at certain places. And amongst those almost 2 million men, I ran into an old friend from high school.
Really?
A friend of mine, William, we called him Nuki, who's a Muslim now. Wow. And I ran into him, his brother, and, he lives actually not, on the south side over here. He used to. He lives, I believe, in New York now. Beautiful brother. But out of all of those almost 2 million men, ran into one of my brothers who took me right back to where I first got introduced to Islam, which was high school.
Yes.
And it was just a beautiful experience to be there, to feel the spirit of that day, to hear all the speakers, to see the people on the bus from the halfway house. On the way there was almost a fight because, these are brothers coming out of prison.
Yes.
And they were giving them sandwiches at a pit stop on the way to the march. We drove through the night from Chicago to DC on a bus. And they were making sandwiches. I was fasting because we were instructed to fast on the way there by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And these two brothers, they almost got into a fist fight because somebody had bologna and somebody else didn't get any bologna for their sandwich, literally. By the time we came back, though, one brother stayed in DC because he found his children and family there. Wow. So he wasn't coming back to Chicago now with us after having come back out of prison. He was a brother who, when we got there, he had this long pole that he was keeping in his pocket because these are brothers coming out of prison. He said, just in case.
Just in case.
And they made him leave it on the bus. And when he came to let us know that he wasn't coming back to Chicago with us, he didn't ask for that pole back.
He didn't ask for the pole. Oh, my goodness.
On the way back, where brothers were fighting about bologna on the way there, everybody was pitching in to make sure everyone ate something. Everyone got something to eat. It was people can't understand it. It was not a civil rights march. Right. It was not some sponsored gathering for political motives. It was a call from God through his servant to affect the change in the people of God. And those who were there and those who watched it, it wasn't magic, but my God, it affected us. And ever since that day, the underlying motive of everything I do is that I want to experience that day again every day. Yes. I want my parents to experience the spirit of that day, my children to experience the spirit, my wife, the other human beings. Everyone should be so blessed to have had a chance to get a glimpse of heaven. And it motivates me to know that it doesn't have to be limited to a day 25 years ago, 26 almost years ago now. It's a spirit that we can recreate.
Yes.
If we as men come together and do as we did that day, which was simply come together and seek God's favor.
Oh my goodness, brother. I can feel the energy. I can feel your spirit as you share the impact of such a divine day. That's now, right. That day on that mall, The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan keynoted that day.
That's right.
And he had the men present to say a pledge.
That's right.
So that upon their returns back to their respective cities, we can see a change.
I want you to say I, and I'll say your name. I know that there's so many names, but I want you to shout your name out so that the ancestors can hear it. Take this pledge with me. Say with me, please. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will strive to love my brother as I love myself. I say your name. From this day forward, will strive to improve myself, spiritually, morally, mentally, socially, politically, and economically, for the benefit of myself, my family, and my people. I say your name. Pledge that I will strive to build business, build houses, build hospitals, build factories, and enter into international trade for the good of myself, my family, and my people. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will never raise my hand with a knife or a gun to beat, cut, or shoot any member of my family or any human being except in self-defense. I say your name. Pledge from this day forward, I will never abuse my wife by striking her, disrespecting her, for she is the mother of my children and the producer of my future. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will never engage in the abuse of children, little boys or little girls, for sexual gratification. But I will let them grow in peace to be strong men and women for the future of our people. I say your name. Will never again use the B word to describe any female, but particularly my own black sister. I say your name. Pledge from this day forward that I will not poison my body with drugs or that which is destructive to my health and my well-being. I say your name. Pledge from this day forward, I will support black newspapers, black radio, black television. I will support black artists who clean up their acts to show
right.
The way they were handling one another to a complete change in the way they were handling one another after the Million Man March. Now, it's amazing because you just shared with me that prior to you had gone to Cuba and you had began doing some work that you're familiar, those who are familiar with you know that this is the line of work that you do.
That's right.
So what is that spirit of activism, of serving, of helping those who are in need? Where is that coming from, Brother Abel? Can you identify?
You know what, brother Reginald, I never really thought about it until you posed a question right now. It just something sort of innate that I had, you know. I know I come from a large family, and there was always sort of, even though we didn't have a lot, whatever we had it. And I never saw my parents not give, or we always had an uncle who would visit, an aunt who would visit from Mexico, and they weren't staying in a hotel. They would come live with us for the summer or for the weeks or months or days that they were present. They didn't have to rent a car. I remember in high school getting on a bus and taking my uncle downtown because he needed to go down to the Mexican embassy to make sure some of his paperwork was in order because of money he was traveling with, that he needed to make sure the funds were transferred over, things of that nature. I took him with me down there, even though I never had met him really, except for once in my life. And it wasn't unusual. So the notion of sort of sharing or being bigger than yourself started for me early. And then once I became involved with the teachings, all of the principles that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad shares, you know, when he says do for self, most of us may consider self an individual, but he's very clear. He's not talking about an individual self. He's talking about a collective self, where no individual can go beyond the perception of the people that they come from as a whole. So we're connected to one another. And to me, that always struck me because it wasn't about getting individual wealth. Right. Although there's nothing wrong with having things, of course. But that's not what we seek. We're seeking to please God. And as the scriptures tell us, seek first the kingdom and all these things will be added unto you. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad never did anything for money. He did things for the service of Allah, and then the money came. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan doesn't do anything for money. He does it for the service of Allah and his people, and the money comes. And they still don't have what they deserve to have, because it's really, you know, without equal. If we gave him all the wealth that is in the earth, it wouldn't be enough. How do you repay somebody for saving your life, my life, not just individuals, but a nation and nations of people have been resurrected because of these men? And so as I started to first study in high school, you know, my mind was sparked. So I started looking at things, and there was a lot of stuff happening in the early 90s in Chicago, from poetry sets that I would just show up at. And then activism was big. We were doing walkouts in high school, my junior year. So I started going to these meetings, and I had people who were mentoring me. They were giving me books about, you know, capitalism to read, and they were socialists. They were non-religious, but I liked what they were doing. I felt like they were at least trying to do something in the community. These are the people who sent me to Cuba. You know, I didn't have the money to go on my own. They raised the funds. There were places like in Pilsen, the Cafe Jumping Bean. They had a fundraiser. Artists donated art from the community to send myself and 3 other Mexican youth to Cuba that summer. They didn't necessarily, I knew some of them. People like Roberto Valadez, who's a great muralist in Chicago, Guillermo Delgado, who's another great artist from Chicago, and countless others who donated things. And the cafe gave money to send us. They knew me because I was in there every day. in the cafe. They even gave me a job when I got back and before I left for Cuba so I can collect a few little funds, but they went above and beyond. And it's there that I started feeling this communal sense, right? This real sense of self being more than an individual.
Yes.
Because I couldn't get there by myself.
Right.
But the self of us got me there without any problem. My parents didn't have the money to send me, so I couldn't ask them for it. I never had to ask them for anything. The community came together. So I've always felt obligated then to give back to that community, which supported me from the very beginning. Even before I became a registered Muslim, they knew me as a Muslim, as a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and they supported what I was doing, not just in words, but even with their money and sacrificing for an artist, as an artist, to sacrifice and give your work to be auctioned off for somebody else. That's a great, great honor. And I think all of those artists who did that back then in 1995 and all of those who helped in allowing me to see that even once I became a registered Muslim, I never saw it as some narrow thing.
Right.
I saw it in a much bigger scope because of the upbringing, if you will, that I had between the artist and the activist community. So I feel like I could never turn my back on them. And they were specifically from the Mexican community and then Puerto Rican community and Black community at large. But that support came right out of the heart of Pilsen in the Mexican community.
Wow. See, you're able, brother. And I mean that, not to, but you're able, ABLE, to show us, a lot of us, meaning who come to the teachings out of the Black experience, that we've lost the connection.
That's right.
With our brothers who have also suffered.
That's right.
The hands of the same oppressor.
That's right.
And because you speak Spanish and I speak English, then somehow we're different.
Right.
When if we got to know one another, we'd see how we are more alike than we are different.
That's right. That's right.
Because our histories go back for years and years and years and years and years, even before the Caucasian entered the scene.
That's right. That's right.
I know I've been with you, brother, many times out in the community, and the love you give and the love that I've seen for you in the community, it's like you are a member of the family.
That's right.
When you're on scene, everyone is reaching for you. Everyone wants to hug you and take pictures with you because of the work that you do on behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. And then 98 Savior's Day, if I'm not mistaken, is What is Islam, the title?
That's right. That's right.
What is Islam? And this is now you as a registered member in the Nation of Islam. How was that first Savior's Day for you?
Oh, brother. I recited on January 12th, and Savior's Day, I believe, was February 26th that year. I think it was actually on the 26th, or right around the date. Yeah. So I was only in 5 or 6 weeks before that. I was a lieutenant by the time Savior's Day came about. I was on the drill team by the time because I had a wonderful lieutenant in my first coming in. The men are placed in squads, yes, and in companies. And my lieutenant was Brother Warren Muhammad, who is the great cinematographer with the Final Call newspaper.
Goodness, that's
again, I didn't know it, but he had spent, I think, a year or 9 months in Colombia.
Yes, he can.
So he spoke fluent Spanish. Yes. So when he came, and he was working in Pilsen. So as a young FOI, first week out, they told us about having to go and distribute the Final Call newspaper. He didn't say, here, go do it. He came with me, and we went into Pilsen with the Final Call newspaper. We went on the South Side with the Final Call newspaper, and he was willing to engage and show me what he could and train with me, not just with the Final Call, bringing me to martial arts, bringing me not only to Monday night FOI class, but we would meet again on Tuesday. We'd meet again on Thursday. We'd meet again on Saturday, bringing different people in to talk to us about how to sell, how to keep up finance, everything you'd want to know. Brother tried his best that he could to help us. And I'll never forget it because it was that experience to me. He, you know, we focused on the South Side, but he wasn't afraid to go into Pilsen because he worked there.
Yes.
He wasn't afraid to go on the East Side in the Mexican community because he knew that community.
Yes.
And he knew the bigger aspect and the bigger mission of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So from the very beginning, I remember, I think it was my second FOI class. Our now brother Regional Captain Dwayne Muhammad was a lieutenant at that time. He's the brother who used to bring me home every night because I didn't drive and we'd be leaving the mosque at 12, 1. Him, Brother Quinn Cedric, our beautiful brother, they were lieutenants.
Yes.
Me and him would be up playing Scrabble on paper night. And then I wasn't going to get on the bus at 2 or they weren't going to let me get on the bus at 2 or 3 in the morning. They gave me a ride home.
Yes.
It was that sense of brotherhood and community. I didn't know how to drill, but my lieutenant said, come on, you're going to drill. Because he was on the drill team.
Yes.
He put me on the drill team and my motivation, seeing the brothers, I loved the militancy of the FOI.
You're right.
I was blessed. I'd always seen the uniforms. I wanted a uniform. And I was blessed to be able to, my first Savior's Day, wear a brown uniform.
Yeah.
Because I was on the drill team, sat front rostrum.
Woo.
We were working and I loved it. And they would show me how to drill. And within a month, I was able to get it down because I didn't take it for play. I went home and I practiced. So after we did that, we drilled. We'd have drill practice at about 2 o'clock in the morning on certain days of the week.
Yes.
And we would get up and we would go there and we would drill. And I'd go home and practice some more because I didn't want to be the weak link. I didn't want to be. These brothers had been training for months and I didn't want to be the reason that we messed up, if you will. So to me, my first Savior's Day was I didn't get to see the minister.
Wow.
Because I was on front rostrum. So I had no idea he was wearing this beautiful emerald green garment.
Right.
Until the photos came out the next week in the Final Call newspaper. I never got a chance to see him.
Wow.
But look how Allah works. Where I was seated on front rostrum.
Yes.
Right in front of me was part of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's family.
Wow.
And sitting right there was his granddaughter who I'd gone to high school with.
Oh, praises to.
And so that was the face, the smiling, pleasant face in this arena of thousands of people at McCormick Place. Allah he brought me right back down to center, and she just smiled when she saw me and got a chance to give me the greetings later. And it was just a beautiful experience, very tiring experience because we were up all night, all day, but it was beautiful. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Absolutely.
The highlight for me was on Friday night. We had gone back because somebody had gotten a flat tire and we had the preliminaries for the drill team that night and I was drilling. So this had to be 2:30 in the morning. I'm at the mosque and I walk in the mosque and right there in the vestibule area is at that time, he was the Assistant Supreme Captain, the son of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Brother Mustafa Farrakhan.
Yes. Great.
And he was standing there or sitting there. He was kind of sitting. There wasn't a lot of people in the mosque because everything was happening at McCormick Place. But I hadn't seen him because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan had been on his World Friendship Tour.
Right.
I hadn't seen any of them. They were gone for about several weeks, if not months. So from the time I registered to Savior's Day, he had just gotten back that Wednesday before Savior's Day.
Wow.
I hadn't seen any of them. But there was the Supreme Captain. Of course, I saw him. I saluted. He did a double take. He gave me the warm. Here he is. The man just been traveling the world. I've been looking up to him. Gave me the warmest greeting, like he'd known me and missed me. He goes, "What's your name, soldier?" Gave me a big embrace. I said, brother, Assistant Supreme. Brother Abel. He's like, where are you from? I said, because he had just gotten back. I said, from Chicago, and he said he did another double take. Oh man, okay. Well, happy Savior's Day, but everything. And he asked me how everything was going. I got a chance to just have a conversation with this man that I've been looking up to for years. So for me, my first Savior's Day experience, as nonstop as it was, a lot of work. We searched a lot of people. We ran a lot of details. We did a lot. I don't remember giving many people the greetings or sitting in on a single workshop. And I didn't get to really see or hear the minister that Sunday till the week after, and I got the videotape. But it was still filled with blessings and memories that I'll still hold dear to this day, because I didn't come to sit and listen in the stands as a fan. I came to be a part of and to be the best me that I could be. And Allah just kept showing me little signs that you'll be all right. Keep going this way. So every time I had a moment where I thought maybe this is too hard or maybe I can't do it, it was always a little something. It could be the greetings from a brother, word from another brother that I hold on to even to this day.
Yes. Praise be to Allah. Brother, you are, it's like this could be a recruitment video, because I can't see how anyone who is not already a registered member of the Nation of Islam can't be inspired by what you are sharing with us, brother. And as an FOI, someone who knows the amount of work that goes into making a Savior's Day successful.
Yes.
Yes. Those are our war stories. We love to share how little sleep we got and what, the details we have to run and the posts we hold and so on and so forth. And not seeing the lectures is a normal thing.
That's right.
For us when we're working like that, but I wanted to focus in on, at this time, that level of work and the work that it takes, it bears witness to the amount of work that is on the shoulders of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
That's right.
Like you said, he's coming from a World Friendship Tour, meaning he's going country to country, representing Black America and our plight to the entire world. And then he comes back and he's delivering a powerful message.
Yes.
All to show us that Islam is ours. It's our nature. It belongs to us. Now you're here. You're there, and you're right in the front rostrum. You're putting your life on the line for this man. Now, and it's a beautiful thing, when you walk in the door. You said, man, I was a lieutenant within a month of walking into the door. When you walk into the door, there's so much work to do.
That's right.
There's so much work to do that if you are willing to give yourself over to the work, there's room for you here in the Nation of Islam.
That's right.
To grow and to prosper and to become what we are becoming, which is reflections of our leader.
That's right.
Now, I'm looking at your journey, brother, and I'm saying to myself, how did this brother become a minister in the Nation of Islam? Like, I'm still not, I'm thinking I would see that along the way, but the way things are happening, it's like Allah just guiding you one step at a time, here, there. And I mean, the people that are coming around, when you say your lieutenant is Brother Warren, and here is a Black man that speaks Spanish.
Right. That's right.
How can, it's like, man, what is the chances for something like that to take place where you can come in and have some familiarity?
That's right.
And
it's interesting because it wasn't like he was my lieutenant. He was over what's called Al-Fatiha, which is where all the new brothers come to him.
Yes.
Special thing where they put me in his thing because he speaks Spanish. No, that was his post, and I, being new, was automatically put in his squad.
Absolutely. I want to know, I want to get to the, you going into the ministry, what
Yes.
led you in that direction. I also have a few other things I want to know, your first time meeting the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But this time, right after this lecture, this Savior's Day of 1998, I know that, the minister falls ill shortly thereafter.
That's right.
And now you're in the nation at that time, you're working, how was that, for you when here it is, this man who has been doing so much and seeming like a Superman in
Right.
how he moves and how he affects the lives of people here and all over the world. How did that, how did you handle that?
I was blessed in that I didn't meet him that early in the process. I remember seeing him, of course, because I was in front rostrum, so I would go back and watch the videos. Yes. And then I see that he's behind us, on the stage for Savior's Day Part 2 and other lectures that he did. And he was coming out quite often, even though he was ill in that time frame, which says something about him. We didn't know he was sick, to be honest with you, till later.
Wow.
And I wanted to make sure I brought that point up, even though we were sitting front rostrum. You can't focus on what he's saying when you're in that kind of security post.
Yes.
But we all went back and we would buy the tape.
Yes.
And we would listen to it. It wasn't like we could just hold post instead of listening to the lecture.
Oh, you're teaching, brother.
Yeah, it was a sacrifice so that others could enjoy it. But we needed to be fed too. How could we secure the word of God and not be in the word of God?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that, if you notice, at that spirit of those brothers at that time, all of us who were in that squad of front rostrum, for the most part, were very studied. Several went into the ministry class. Some went on to the E team. These were not just brothers who we're going to, we weren't bodyguards.
Go ahead.
That's not what we are. We're the fruit of Islam. So how can we be the fruit of what we're not studying or becoming a part of?
Yes.
And that was the beauty of it. And in that time frame, it was in the summer of 98. Yeah. I started making myself more visible just by working. I wasn't trying to do anything. I was just trying to help my nation and figure out how I could use it to spread it into the Spanish speaking community, the teachers. And there was Friday nights were key, study group. Coming on Friday and dealing with self-improvement as the basis for community development. I didn't miss Friday nights because Friday nights to me were absolutely where I got to be better. And that's what I came here for. I wanted to be better.
Right.
And here's a whole course of study given to us from Allah through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on doing just that, improving ourselves.
Yes.
It was in that course that some of the student ministers would come and sit in different circles. And several Fridays, I remember Brother Student Minister Jeffrey, who's the assistant to Minister Ishmael here in Chicago.
Yes.
He would come and sit. And one Friday, he said, he said, you ever think about the ministry? And not at all, because I didn't like speaking publicly. I would miss school when we would have to give oral presentations. I just didn't reading and speaking were not my thing at all. I like sports and I like to play sports and be hands-on. I didn't like either of those two things at all. And he invites me to this ministry class, and he says it to me a second. He goes, "Yeah, you should come." I said, "Well, when is it?" I didn't know what it meant, to be honest with you. He said, "Oh, it's I think Tuesdays at that time." And one of my other good friends, Brother Joey Muhammad, was in the student ministry class at the time. And so when he told me to come, it was in the spring of 98. Brother Joey said, "Oh yeah, you should come then if he invited you." I said, "Okay." So I came to the ministry class, and it was a big class. There was a lot of people in that class. A few weeks after that, in about the late summer, early fall, I had gotten a call that the minister wanted to meet with the Chicago ministry class.
Wow.
And I got a call to be on that meeting. So I said, well, of course I'm going to go to that.
Yes, of course.
So I go to the class, and there's just me, 20 of us in the gymnasium with the minister. And he asked a question. He said, "I didn't come here to talk to you. I want to hear what you got to say." And now I'm super nervous because I don't got nothing to say. I'm just here because I'm trying to figure out how to best help. I don't even know what it really means to be a student in the ministry outside of studying the word. And I like that part.
Right.
And maybe, you know, doing like opening the meeting. Okay. I couldn't see myself doing it but whatever. There's a lot of us here. Apparently there's enough to go around for everyone. I wasn't worried about that. Right. To me, the ministry meant getting involved enough and studious enough that I could represent it to people, not from a microphone, but when we communicate in person. And when we got there, he made each of us, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, stand up and tell him why we wanted to be a minister. I didn't want to be a minister, so I had never thought about this question before. That was never my motive or my intention. So now for the first time, I'm not going to tell him, well, I don't want to be a minister. It sounded silly to me. It almost sounded disrespectful. You know, here I am in front of the minister telling him I don't want to be a minister. So I'm just here, taking up space?
Exactly.
So as I'm sitting there, because they were coming around the room to have each of us stand up and tell him why. Wow. All I could think of was I said, you know, I just want to help. And I told him that. And pretty much that's all I said. I said, and to help bring this to, you know, to my community. He asked me where I was from and my family was from, because he had asked if anyone spoke another language. Of course, I raised my hand. I told him Spanish. He asked me where my family was from. I told him from Mexico. He's like, good. And then he said, don't get bogged down by all the black talk. He said, take the teachings and put them in a way so that your people can understand it. And that stuck with me. So from that thing, now I started taking it on more serious, in my mind at least.
Yes.
I didn't know what it really meant. I had nothing in me that wanted to get in front of a microphone or anything like that. That's not, but I wanted to help him get the word out. That's what I did want to do.
Yes.
A couple of months later, I think it's end of 98, going into 99. One of the brothers I'm good friends with, Brother Abel Muhammad, is the study group coordinator in Joliet, Illinois. Yeah. We start going out there to help him. And things happen, circumstances happen. And by 99, right around or after Savior's Day, I'm now in charge of the Joliet study group. Wow. And now we're leading into the year 2000 towards the Million Family March. Right. So we were blessed to take a group from there. And in 99, I got a chance to meet with the minister again, for he had called now. At first, we met with just the local ministers in Chicago. He called for all of the ministers across the country to come to Chicago in, I want to say it was late summer or summer of 99. Mm. Everybody came from all of the mosques. Wow. And it was a gymnasium packed full of people. Wow. And he was instructing us for 3 days. And I'm sitting there just soaking it all in. He tells us he hosts dinner at the Salam restaurant and invites all of us to go have dinner with him there. Yes. And I see Minister Ishmael and Brother Minister Rasul, Mother Tainetta, Brother Akbar there. So I head over to the mosque and to the Salam restaurant, and Student Minister Ishmael brings me with him. And so I'm sitting next to Minister Ishmael. I'm at a table. I didn't realize it was right in front of the minister. Mother Tainetta sitting there, of course, his mother, his brother Rasul, Brother Akbar, the international representative. And I'm here. I've been in the mosque a little over a year and a half or something like that. I feel so out of place. And then the minister comes in and I realize his table's right behind us. Right. And as he's coming down, he sees Mother. And of course, he comes and greets her. And then he greets, these are his friends, Akbar and Brother Minister Ishmael and Rasul. And then minister comes to me, and the Minister Ishmael introduces me to him, and he says, brother, this is Brother Abel Muhammad. He's in the ministry class here. He's from the Mexican community, and the minister, he's wearing, I'll never forget, it's like a cream white suit that he has on. And he says, Brother Abel, he said, that's a beautiful name, brother. That's a wonderful name. And he's shaking my hand. I'm just geeked just to, touch this man. Yes. And then he says, and he kind of stops and he goes, I'm gonna try to get rid of Cain for you. And then and everybody goes up, laughing because it's like a joke, and I don't even know what to do. And he just kind of steps away, real smooth. He goes to his table, and I'm just sitting there. I remember the whole time. I don't even remember what we ate or anything else. all I remember thinking is how out of place I felt at that table. Like, how I can't be sitting here, not with these people in front of him. And that comment, though, always stayed with me. It was a joke, but we know that he doesn't speak an idle word.
Exactly.
And he said, how much? And of course, from the history of Cain and Abel, Cain is the brother of Abel who seeks to take his life. Yes. And so I always took it it was a precious moment because it meant to me that it wasn't just me looking after myself, but God's servant was looking after my life. Absolutely. And the beauty of that, but it made me even think deeper of the Cain in self that would undermine my own growth and development. Wow. You know, that part of us that would make us kill the messenger of God in ourselves. Yeah. And I always have held on to that. But that day, in that time frame, again, he had asked, you know, how many spoke a different language. I raised my hand, and he said it in that time frame right around the early 2000s again to me at another similar meeting. Don't get bogged down by the black talk. He said, put it in a way so that your people can understand it. Yeah. And so to me, that always has been the guiding force or principle of what I study and how I study and what I'm trying to achieve is not becoming dogmatic, but understanding the principles of what we're being taught, because it's the principle that is ultimately the force, if you will, that will change and allow our people to turn or pivot on that principle, because the dogma will go away. The dogma can emotionally arouse us maybe, but it won't sustain us. Right. And the principle will sustain us. So I've always had to digest everything. Yes. From that as my filter. I've been trying to make sure there's truth, and the principle, the core, the root, if you will, is what I'm always trying to get after. Not that I've always gotten there, but that's my driving force because of those simple instructions that he gave me at the first times I've met him, and in my steps early in the ministry were always towards that end, was making sure that what we've been given, I don't want to dilute it or weaken it by making it simple. Even though it's easy to understand, I don't want to diminish it by missing the root because I'm stuck on the surface. And his words to me have really helped me to try to not be just a surface dweller, but to go and dig and search for the real essence of what we're being given.
Now, you've grown as you have been in the ministry and been in the nation and been doing this work and are growing. Was there a point where you recognized yourself and seeing that, man, I am something different than what I thought I was or what I saw myself as?
Brother, that's probably I don't want to say it's a weakness, but it's not something that I do often in terms of, I do critique myself because I always feel like I could do things better. Right. But I don't ever look at myself in terms of like value, if you will, not that I don't see myself as without value, but I don't think about it. It's not something I'm consciously like, I wonder, trying to place myself where I am, or do I look at myself that way? And not that I think there's necessarily anything wrong with it. Right. It's just something that is not, it's not part of my makeup, if you will. It's not something I'm interested in. I don't really dwell on, where this puts me. There's certain times people will remind me or mention things to me to let me know that, this is the first time this has happened, or that we've done that, or things like that come up. And I thank Allah for those moments. Right. When people kind of give a perspective, if you will, to things, because I don't, it's difficult to see yourself in that, and it's not something that I'm necessarily even desirous of seeing myself in. Maybe one day, and however long Allah allows me to live on this planet, but I see myself, I've been in the Nation of Islam now 23 years, which is literally half my life. Wow. Look at how many decades I am behind my teacher. Wow. So just looking at it from that standpoint, it's like, I've done maybe a little something, but what I would want to do is so much bigger still that I look at myself in the sense of critique to analyze and examine to see how I can do things better, but I don't look at myself from the vantage point of sort of the perspective of where I might be in history or what this might mean to people. I have difficulty putting myself in that because I'm not sure how to measure that, you know what I mean? But I kind of live by this principle that I was taught early on, that it's better to be invited to the front than be asked to move back.
Wow.
And it helps me to see myself better. I prefer to go unnoticed if I could.
Right.
And you even know, I mean, I'm actually kind of just a quiet person, and sometimes it makes people uneasy. My wife is good at noticing that when we're in social settings, and she's like, you know, people expect you to say this or say something, and I'm just not that person. If I'm not, you know, I'm sociable. You know me, and that you have been in many social settings outside of the mosque, and we talk about music and other things, of course. But in terms of having to be the center of attention or having to say something, if I never got to speak on the microphone again, it wouldn't change, I hope, who I am. I don't, because I never wanted to be there to begin with. I do it because I see the need and how people might benefit, and I've received a response, but it's not something that I have to do. If there was never another microphone or monitor that I'm in front of, I could still be who I am, and I try to keep myself in that posture. And Student Minister Nuri mentioned it on Sunday from Closing the Gap, that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan mentioned humility.
Yes.
And it's that principle of humility that if you keep yourself low, everything they throw at you, it misses you. Yes. Because you haven't put yourself above that. And I can say honestly, by the grace of Allah, I don't get hit by a lot, not because I'm beyond getting hit. I just try to stay low, because my teacher, his example is to stay low in terms of meekness, in terms of humility, not denigrating yourself, but just not thinking too much of yourself. So I don't really think of myself often at all, because I think it leads to a tendency then to think too much. It's sort of like human nature. Yeah. And so I prefer to follow the way of my teacher. I read in Closing the Gap, he mentioned how he sees himself as a little child playing marbles. And there's a beautiful picture in the book of him playing a drawing of a child playing marbles.
Yes.
And that's kind of how I see myself. Not that this is a game by any means.
No.
But if I had the preference, I'd prefer to just stay at home with my family.
Yes.
You know, this people complain about the quarantine of the COVID, you know, the coronavirus, and people have had to stay home.
Right.
I loved it. I've loved it, to be honest with you.
Yes.
This is the, you know, I told I haven't shared it totally with my wife, but I'm starting to miss people a little bit now after a year.
Right.
I loved being at home. I can't remember the last time that months went by and I hadn't traveled someplace to speak. I don't remember the last time that I hadn't, you know, I didn't have to miss something or arrange something or tell my daughter, oh, I'm going to be late because I had to be someplace else. Not that I would ever hold it against, because it's important to do these other things as well. But I have loved being able to indulge and just see my children every day. Love being able to just, I don't have to worry about leaving. I'm not going to be here that weekend. I'm going to be there this weekend. I got just being at home and enjoying my children and my wife and eating a home cooked meal every day. I mean, and being just in that has been a blessing. And honestly, it's the core of who I am. I go out there to do those things out of obligation and out of my love to help my teacher, but it's not my preference. If I had a preference, I wish everything was just good out there and I could enjoy my family, but it's not. So then because of that, we got to go do these things. And that's the part that that I try to keep at my core, that those things don't make me who I am. The people who see you and they think all they hear is what you said and they think you're like that all the time. No, I'm like that out of my love, but it's not only who I am. I'm pretty quiet. I stay out, even with my children. I don't do a lot. I like to just watch them play. I like to watch them do things, and we joke around and we listen to music, but that's who I am in my essence. And the balance of that is then the expression of knowing that we don't live in a world where we can be like that all the time. That just like we have to worry about my children, you have to worry about yours. Our brothers and sisters out there have to worry about theirs. Then I feel obligated to go and do something to affect it so that my children maybe won't have to make the same sacrifices that I did in the same way. They can move more in a different direction. And that's really the me, if you will. That's where I see myself, that at the end of the day, my children and my family can say he was a good man who loved us. We know he loved us and he loved his people. That's enough. I don't know about the rest of sort of the gauge or the measurement of, I don't think about those things. And even when I think about it with my family, that's my focus, is that I hope that they know. If everyone else knows, that's fine too, but my concern is them.
No, brother, that's so wonderful. And everything that you said is really, I'm grateful that you shared that. And that we've been able to capture that here, because I don't think I've ever heard you share.
I know.
Quite that.
I know I haven't. I don't think anyone ever asked me that, so I never had to share that. No.
So, man, I feel honored, blessed to be one to interview you today. And the follow-up question to that was there a time when you saw the minister a certain way, when it clicked, when something, sparked for you as to who he was and who he is?
There's one key moment that comes to my mind that kind of really solidified things. And it was in 2015, as we were actually two events in 2015, now that I'm thinking about it. One of them was in Washington, D.C., where I was there with our sister, Yonajda, Lone Wolf Muhammad. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was invited to speak to what's called the, I forgot what they're calling it. It's a gathering. It's a summit of the Native American youth. Okay. And it's a different tribes. There were literally hundreds of tribes there represented, but it's for the youth. Mm-hmm. And he was invited to be the keynote speaker. So I went out there to be a witness it, and it's a packed room, brother. I'm talking about a big hotel room, those big gathering spaces, couple thousand people.
Yes.
The day before, they had met with President Obama. Wow. And he was there to talk to them about their value. And it's called the Unity Tribal Gathering. That's what it was called.
Okay.
And it's on the internet. Yeah, it's on the internet because he asked them to release it.
Yes.
And I saw him speak to these native people. And he did what he does.
See, you are not just mere man. You are God. And if you know what God means, it means one having force and power. So God never says there's something I can't do. Did you hear me? So God always knows he has the power to do whatever he wills. And since he made us in his image and after his likeness, the word can't should never be in the vocabulary of a human being. And believe me, when you're connected to God, you walk the earth in humility, but you are not afraid of anything that he created, and certainly not afraid of any man. When you fear God and God alone, then you see men as they are. We don't bow down to power or money. We don't bow down to those who have the superior weapons that they can dictate how our lives should be. We bow to God and determine what our life should be and remove every impediment in the pathway of our progress.
The response was exactly as it is wherever he goes. He answered questions from them. They were such beautiful questions. Afterwards, I was there. He was leaving the stage and the tribal elders were going to come up to do something afterwards. And as he was leaving, the youth started, because it was like some curtains that he went behind to go backstage. The youth started rushing to try to get back there to him. And it got to the point where they had to come out because it was disrespectful to the elders who were about to come up. They weren't trying to be disrespectful. They were just moved by the man that they just had heard, and they just wanted to talk to him and get a photo with him. And I saw it with my own eyes.
Yes.
Where we had to kind of rearrange and tell them, look, please go back and have a seat. You know, we told them how they could get a hold of the minister via social media and stuff so that they could ask him questions or whatnot, because we didn't want to be disrespectful to the elders, the tribal leaders who were coming. But I saw it. There was an effect, a direct effect from him. And afterwards, I was blessed to get invited to his hotel room to have dinner with him. And while we were there, he started asking what we thought of what he shared and what was experienced and the response of people, you know. And so I shared with him when it was my turn. I told him, you know, brother minister, I was in tears because of what I'd witnessed and I was feeling the weight of it. And I said, I feel like a 16,000-year-old wound was being healed. And of course, that was referencing the history that Master Fard Muhammad taught the Honorable Elijah Muhammad of the exile of the native people 16,000 years ago.
Yes.
And the minister said, he got very serious. He said, brother, if what you're saying is right, then that means that the mission and the purpose for Master Fard Muhammad's coming is being done. I'll never forget that.
Praise be to Allah.
And then later that year in September, as he finished his speaking tour that he traveled the country spreading the message of justice or else, the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March that we were going to have in DC. It was significant that the final place that he spoke was at a Mexican church in Chicago in Pilsen.
I remember that.
And it was there where I had started my journey in Pilsen. And it was that family in particular, Reverend Emma Lozano and her family.
Yes.
That when I first became awakened in high school, one of my classmates, he was a year behind me, was Rudy Lozano Jr., who was her nephew. And he is the son of the slain activist and alderman from Chicago, who was a great friend of Mayor Harold Washington, the first black mayor. And it was the black and Latino Mexican vote in particular that helped get Harold Washington elected.
Yes.
And made Rudy Lozano, before he was assassinated, a great helper. And he introduced me to his aunt, Emma Lozano, who now became Reverend Emma Lozano, who hosted the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at their church. And people don't know, she had been ill and had had a serious procedure done just a few days prior to that.
Really?
But she insisted on translating for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Because she said she woke up with a dream that she had to be the one to translate for him, for the people.
Wow.
So at a certain point in that video broadcast, you'll see that I became the translator because she just got too weak and had to sit down. And her husband asked me to take over. So it wasn't planned. And of course, I was super nervous now on the fly. I had not prepped to do that. But what's interesting is this, to lead me to that story. That afternoon, on the way there, I was with our regional captain, Dwayne, and we were going to ride up there to the church together a few hours early, you know. Yeah. It was the last stop before Justice or Else.
Yeah.
It was his first time speaking at a Mexican church in Chicago. And it was there in Pilsen.
Yes.
And as I'm getting in the call with regional captain Dwayne, I get a call from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And he's asking me questions because he was preparing to speak that night. And now here's a man who's been ministering for 55 years. Right. Yet he's calling his student because he doesn't take for granted in assuming that he understands, like, I got this. I've been doing this for 50 years. I can do this. He actually showed me a level of humility and the type of student that he is. He asked me certain questions about the people who would be there, about things that they experience. Is it like this? Is it like that? Where are they from? Are they all from Mexico? He's a master student, and so showed me how humble he was.
Yes.
That's something that I'll never forget, not because I had something that I thought I could offer him. Because when he asked me what I thought, if there's something I thought he should say, I said, Brother Minister, whatever you want to say. I know it'll be what the people need. I don't have no position to tell you that, but his humility to ask questions, it made me to understand and know that, look, if this man after 55 years is that humble, what excuse do any of us have to think we just going to show up someplace and got it like that?
Right.
You know, so, I mean, he'd been doing it for months, going into different communities, and just the beautiful heart. It moved me in a really special way, Brother Reginald. I got to tell you,
Yes.
to know that as up here as we place him,
Yes.
he's up there, and his representation is up there because he stays, like he told us, low in humility, never thinking more of himself, never assuming that he's just got it. Even though time and time again, Allah has elevated him, granted him success, he never takes it for granted. He asks, he wants to know. He doesn't want to just assume, are these, are they workers? Are they college? He just little things, because it's telling him something about the type of mind that he's dealing with.
Right.
And what you saw that night, again, as I saw with the native, and as we've seen him do everywhere he goes, the effect upon the people was the same. And it just proved to me without a shadow of a doubt that he is not just a man for Black people. He is the man that the world has been looking for and needs. And every chance that I've had an opportunity to see him, he's proven it.
Yeah.
That he doesn't change his message. He doesn't alter his way. He brings the truth in a beautiful way to affect the change in the people, and the people receive it, and it changes and affects them everywhere he goes.
Thank you, brother, for everything that you shared. I want to give you an opportunity as I'm closing out to share anything that you have on your heart that you want to give to our audience, that you want to say to our audience.
I just want to thank you, Brother Reginald, and your wonderful wife and beautiful, beautiful family as well, and all of those who are tuning in. And I would invite everyone to go to NOI.org and take and make full use of the workshops, of the lectures, of the symposiums, and even to benefit of the enjoyment of the different social aspects that you'll see on there. Go to NOI.org, register if you have to, if you can, support and benefit from the knowledge and wisdom that we've received, because I can honestly say, as a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, there is no greater gift that he has given me in my life than purpose. Because if it wasn't for the purpose, I would have no reason for being. I'd have no clarity for trying to be a good father, trying to be a good husband, trying to be a good example. It's all because of him, this one man who people want to claim is whatever they want to claim about him. Yet all of us who follow him are better. All of us who listen to him, we are successful. All of us who try to help him, no matter what happens to us, we benefit. All of us that have been in a position near or around him to examine him, see that he's true and he's faithful. And all of us that have had an opportunity to study him, to listen to him, to attempt to, if you will, examine what he's given to us and apply it into our lives, we can all bear witness of the benefit of what happens when we do apply it in our lives. So this one man that so many people are divided about, yet all of us who follow him can tell you of the love that he has taught us, and that he's allowing us to now express to those around us that nothing and no one else could. So I'm not asking you to just believe my testimony, but I want to bring forth my testimony as a witness of the goodness of that man. Because if there's any good in my witness, it's because of what it is trying to reflect in following the good man, the good shepherd, the one who is showing us a better way. So that's what I would invite everyone to do, is to go and hear him for yourself. Hear those who've benefited from him directly, so that you don't have to wonder, what kind of man is this? What is he really teaching? If he's teaching us hate, how come you don't hear hate from us? If he's teaching us that which is improper, how come you don't see what is improper reflected in our manner and in our way? No, when we're improper, it's because we've deviated. When we are other than ourselves, it's not because we're reflecting him, it's because we're leaving him. Because as long as we follow the light and try to walk in the light, our steps are clean, our steps are rightly guided. And what we have today is one who has been rightly guided and has been raised to rightly guide us, one who's been anointed, so that from that anointing, we might benefit and receive not only the good news, but receive the way, the life, and the truth, that we might walk therein, that we might live better, and that we might finally get up and be what God intends for us to be, which is ourselves, by reflecting what our true selves is, what our real nature is, which is obedience to the will of the Creator that created us. So thank you, Brother Reginald. And I pray that all who have watched this, I thank you for watching it and listening to it. And I pray that Allah can use it as a way to help that may benefit others that are looking for something better, that are looking for a way, but may not know that the Nation of Islam is the way for you as well. Just because you're from Mexico or Puerto Rico or someplace in Latin America, or from the Pawnee or the Lakota or the Maya or the Inca, you may think this is something else. No, don't get bogged down by the black label. For black is not local, black is not regional, and black is not national, but black is universal. So when we say black, we're not talking about a color, because black is not a color. It's the essence from which all color comes. Black is not a race. Black is universal.
Once again, oh, that was so great. Thank you for those words. Our brother, Student Minister Abel Muhammad, thank you for coming on to our show. Thank you for all that you've shared with us. And I know that we could have gone hours, as we often do in private.
That's right.
Inshallah, we can have you back on in the future, and we can get into other aspects of your journey following the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I want to ask my audience, as we end, that if you would like to help us with this broadcast, to please make a donation, contribute, so that we can continue to make programs that uplift the name of our teacher and our friend, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. With that being said, thank you once again for tuning in. Please comment, share this as often as possible. I'm your host, Brother Reginald, your God brother, and this is If My Name Be Lifted Up, my journey following the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Assalamu alaikum.
Your God brother, check it out. If y'all ain't know, I'm still walking my post off of social media. If you thought I was ghost, y'all could hope. I still flow, put the boss in my quotes, I could float. I'm always close to the law and my oath, hard to boast. Release the record, I teach the method to be perfected. Through the repossession of Jesus' message, a lethal weapon. Reread the lessons, you'll peep the questions that we've connected. And even tech is to be collected and redirected. Look, I got the talent, I ain't vain with it. I done struggle for the balance, I'm the same with it. I awoke a bigger field, I have a game with it. I broke a couple seals, another plane with it. Go wherever he say go. Rain, hail, snow, whenever he say so. Wicked enemies, they won't achieve, they go. Satan couldn't break whoever he makes whole. Hail Elijah, hallelujah. He's the Messiah, I'm a student. That's my title, keep my eye out for the Judas. His disciple, would you do this?